Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nick Kroll Show. Today, I got Mike Smith from Titafit Manufacturing here with me, and he's going to kind of tell us and walk us through his story and how he started this company. Because this started, back 3-4 years ago now?
Yeah, 4 years ago, maybe even 4.5.
And it was different back then. You've since transformed it. So where did the first idea ever come from? Because you were pretty
Yeah, man.
young at the time, right?
Yeah. First off, appreciate you having me on the show, man. This is awesome. I love the podcast. I've listened to a couple of them already so far. So glad that I was able to get on and kind of share my story as well. But
Awesome,
yeah,
man.
I
Thanks for listening.
started a clothing brand called Titanium Fitness, and back in November of 2016. The idea started in about June or July, and we started executing probably in November-ish of 2016. And we pretty much started just a small clothing brand. I had really zero expectations of what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew that I wanted to create a brand of people. I wanted to have a community of awesome fitness people. I was really just getting into working out and living like the fitness lifestyle, living a healthy lifestyle. I was playing college soccer at the time. I was a freshman at the University of Michigan. I'm sorry. Can you hear my computer?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It's going crazy right now. But anyway, yeah, I was playing college soccer at the time, so I kind of had that whole fitness lifestyle mentality, and I just wanted to create a brand that people could kind of get behind. And we slowly transformed that, and it was kind of a snowball effect of doing T-shirts and hoodies and hats and everything you can think of in the fitness line of clothing, and slowly just started building a team of amazing people. And then I guess I'll pause there, and we'll kind of ask a couple of questions, and I'll go into what we are now.
So where did it you said you got this idea, was this with friends? What made you want to start a business? You just wanted to get people together, or was there more to that?
Yeah, so back then, going into college, I was entrepreneurial driven. I always wanted to create a brand. I knew that I wanted to be the CEO, right? I created my Instagram as Mike Smith CEO because I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the face behind a brand. And I never really knew what I wanted to do, but I knew that there was something out there for me. So obviously you listen to all the videos, you read all the books, people say follow your passion and do what you love. So what I love is working out and motivating other people to work out and live the best version of themselves. And I kind of practice and preach that every single day, even to this day. And yeah, I don't know, I just the fitness community was just full of amazing people. And back then I looked at large companies like LiveFit and Gymshark and Alphalete, companies that are now just mega billion-dollar brands now. And those were the ones that were really just starting. They were like in their growth phases back then. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you look at companies, like I said, like Alphalete right now, and they're building this mega master gym down in Texas.
That place
When
is
I
pretty
first started,
sick.
yeah, when I first started following Christian and everything that he did, I mean, dude, they were in a small gym and they were literally doing the same thing we were. Obviously, fast forward 3-4 years from when we started, but they started with the t-shirts and the hoodies and everything else, and it just expanded from there.
How do you, if someone was to start their brand today, how would you tell them to go about growing it and marketing it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's very different. I mean, as technology and life as we know it evolves, it's evolving every single day. It's very different than when I started. So when I started, the route that we wanted to go was through the ambassadorship program. So essentially, we would have a group of individuals on our team that wanted to represent who we were. Team Titanium is what we called it. And when we started that, they would get a discount. They would get commission on all products that they sold. They would rep the gear in the gyms, rep it in their lifestyle, and really just promote the brand. They were essentially just people that wanted to promote our brand and help the cause and promote what we do.
Put a good
So
message out there.
yeah, put a good message, exactly. And then our kind of channel, our medium was through Instagram, because Instagram was, 5 years ago now, it was to the point where Instagram was good and you could grow on Instagram.
Yeah.
And and then flash forward to now, I mean, Instagram is kind of terrible in my opinion. They've shut down all organic growth. But
I agree.
back then, I mean, we were growing at insanely quick rates. I mean, I'd log into my Instagram in a morning and we'd be up 300-400 followers from the day previously. And these were all new people that love the brand, were sending us messages. I mean, I used to probably send out, I would say, close to 200 to 300 messages a day, because this was my life. This is what I did. So, I mean, it was my baby. It was the business. And just trying to grow it.
DMs to just
Yeah.
different people that you follow, that you don't follow,
Yeah. Just people
hashtags.
that were in the fitness community, trying to get them onto our team and trying to get them to support what we did. And yeah, just sending messages out. And I mean, like I said, it was just a snowball effect from there, getting people on the team, getting them to fill out the form, and then putting them onto our program on what we did. And then, we had a Facebook page where they would come on. We would share, nutritional tips, workouts, obviously all of the clothing that we had, sales, pretty much anything that revolved around the brand.
That's awesome. And I mean, I seen it. I mean, I remember when it was titanium and like how fast it grew, and it was pretty crazy. Like from an outsider's perspective, I was like, wow, this brand is like really taking off. Like every month I felt like you used to post like the, cause you mentioned they would get like a commission slice. You used to post that and be like, wow, like all these people like are
Yeah.
getting this commission. Like his brand must be making so much more than that.
Yeah, no, that was one of my favorite parts about doing it too, is because like we're actually helping people financially. Like
Yeah.
we were literally paying out paychecks, quote unquote paychecks, right? Every single week to ambassadors. So at the end of the week, I would go through and I would basically tally up all of the sales that we had, and I would just basically times it by, the commission percentage, whether it's 10%, 15, 20%. And then we would just pay out through that. I would just pay people through PayPal. So yeah, it was something cool, because if people generally and genuinely love the products and they wanted to promote it to their friends, their family, their followers, they would promote it. If people bought with their code, we would pay them. So I don't know, that was good to me to kind of like give back to the people that were helping me as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. So what happened when titanium became Tita?
Yeah. So long story short, we actually got hit with a cease and desist from a large brand called Columbia Sportswear, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. It's the mega monstrous outdoorsy Patagonia type style brand. They do like ton of clothing, shoes, whatever. So I was young. I had no idea that you needed trademarks and LLCs and all this stuff, right? I didn't know about all that, right? So they apparently had a trademark on the word titanium, and they basically sent me an email. And I get a lot of emails, and sometimes it's phishing, sometimes they're fake, they're frauds, whatever. And for some reason, this email stood out to me, and I clicked on it, and it was actually I guess like the attorney department, or it was the people who represent Columbia Sportswear, and they basically told me I have 1 weekend to either change our name or shut the business down, because we are violating their trademark infringement rights, which means they own the trademark on the word titanium. So I mean, luckily, I had a really good support staff. I had my family helping me. A couple of my dad's buddies were, attorneys and lawyers, and they kind of walked me through the whole process. But, needless to say, that weekend was just nothing but hell. I mean, we literally had no idea what to do. I didn't know if I was going to get sued, if my family was going to get sued, if we were going to lose the house. Like, I didn't even know. It was one of those things where like it went like 0 to 100 real quick, and I had no idea what to do. So
Yeah. So I mean, what like you obviously checked it out and it was legit, because I mean, my first thought is like I would see something like that and be like, yeah, okay, beat it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, so how did you know that it was legit? I mean, you said
Yeah.
your dad had lawyer friends.
Yeah, we sent it out to them, and they're like, yeah, this is a legit email. This is like real. Like, you need to take action on this now, or else like they will sue you. Like at the end of the day, they will come after you and sue you. And I mean, it's like a whale in a small fish pond. We were the small guppy and they were the whale, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
so
didn't have an
essentially,
LLC at the time, right?
yeah, we had an LLC, but that doesn't matter when it comes to trademark infringement.
Right.
It's like having a patent on something and somebody going out and doing exactly what your patent is. Like you can't do that, which,
Right.
lo
I'm
and behold, I
surprised
didn't
they were
know
able
that.
to trademark the word titanium. Like I was
Bro,
told.
so yeah, if you go on the government website, it's like uspto.gov. You can look up any trademark that any company has. Like Ford Motor Company, they own the rights to the trademark titanium as well, but it's on vehicles, it's on moving vehicles, it's on vehicles with wheels. Like it's so many different categories where, Columbia Sportswear, they had it on apparel, fitness apparel, woven apparel. So they had the whole 9 yards on that as well. And I didn't know that. So I guess long story short, back to your question, we had to change the name. I took the time to really decide like, hey, do we want to completely change the name? And do we want to lose like everything we've worked for? Do we want to just quit this? Or do we want to just try to fandangle our way out and figure out a way that we can keep this going, but keep it going, legally, properly. So what we ended up doing is changing the name. We just shortened it down. And this kind of goes out to anybody starting a brand. If you're ever starting a clothing brand or any type of brand and you need a name, literally make something up. Like make up a word, make up a name. That way you're never violating anything that's out there. And that's probably my biggest tip. So Titafit, Tita, basically it's titanium, the TI, and then we just basically mashed titanium fitness and put Titafit together. And nobody out there like in the world had anything related to Titafit. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the route we went.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I remember when this happened and I was like, I hadn't started my brand yet. So I was like, oh, I'm going to learn from that one. And I went on that
Yep.
usgov.pto or whatever it was. And
Mhm.
I was typing in like everything that had to do with RN fitness. I was Googling it. Anything that said RN fitness, I was all over. And I found
Yeah.
like one thing that was just a small LLC out of Georgia. And I was like, all right, I'm good. And I went forward with it because I was like, wow, that could be a disaster.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a long road that you don't want to ever have to go down. So yeah, the biggest tip that I can ever give anybody, whatever business, whatever you're doing, is do your research. Make sure, and another thing is like look at your social handles too. Like make sure that just because there's nothing on Google that has like, we'll just say for example, Titafit, like if you want the handle to be at Titafitco, look that up. Make sure it's not out there. Make sure that there's nothing even similar or close that might be misrepresented or misinterpreted by somebody. So try to be unique as possible when it comes to branding.
Absolutely. So you go from Titanium Fitness Company to Titafit, and then what did the people that you had together, like the community, were they supportive of this? Were they like, what the hell just happened? Like, how did that go?
No, no, it was super supportive. And I think the biggest reason on why people were so supportive is because of my transparency. Like I was the face behind the brand. Like I come on, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it was every single day and give, you've seen it, like little spigots of what I'm doing in the day or what the brand's doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I think people were so like receptive to it because of how transparent I was. Like I literally laid it out like, hey guys, exactly what I just told you. Like this is what happened. I messed up. I took the blame for it. Unfortunately, we were violating some rights. I was really unaware. I was uneducated. And these are the steps that we need to do. We either have option A or option B. Option A is to keep going. Option B is to quit. I don't want to choose option B. Let's keep going and let's just transform and kind of figure it out as they come. I think my biggest like quote that I've ever used is just like adapt and overcome. Like adapt and react, adapt and overcome. Like if something happens, like you need to adapt to it, but then you need to overcome it. Like, yeah, it sucked that we had to change the brand. Like we were getting so much traction. I mean, like so much traction with Titanium. Like I said, we were growing 300-400 a day. People see that and they're like, oh, who is this brand? All of a sudden it's just like, boom, now they're Titafit. Like who are these guys?
Yeah. What just
So
happened?
it just happened in like a weekend. So that kind of sucked. But at the same time, like I think we got more support because we changed and continued the path versus just saying, hey, screw it. We're just going to be done with it,
Yep. So how did when it comes to branding and getting shirts, like how did you go about that at first?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, so I thought of doing a clothing brand back in June or July of 2016. And I probably spent, I would say 5 or 6 months just researching, local shops to do clothing, custom manufacturers in the US, manufacturers overseas, everywhere, just so I can kind of familiarize myself with how the process works and what I wanted to choose because there's so many routes that you can go. You can go to, I mean, every town has a local screen printer, right? You can
Yeah.
go and you can get t-shirts made from Gildan, American Apparel, Next Level, and you can slap a logo on there and you can sell it. Well, when it came time to me creating the brand, there was quite a few brands already out there. Like I know now everybody and their brother wants to have a clothing brand
Wild.
or it's everywhere, right? And
Yeah.
but back then, I mean, there still was a decent amount of people that either had a clothing brand, started a clothing brand, and a lot of them would just go to that local person and they would just slap a logo on there, like I said. But I wanted something that was better. I wanted something that was higher quality. I wanted our custom tags on it. I wanted custom branding.
Make it
So literally,
yours.
yeah, I want it to be ours. I didn't want it to be where it took 10 minutes for me to drive to a local shop, get a shirt, and have them print it, and boom, I'm selling it. To me, that wasn't quality. That
Yeah.
wasn't what I wanted.
And those are the Guild t-shirts are like shitty cotton t-shirts. You know
Yeah,
what I
they're
mean?
terrible.
Like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just did a ton of research, a lot of Google, a lot of Instagram, just reaching out to networks, connections, people in the industry, people that started a clothing brand, figured out who their manufacturer was. Most of the time people don't give that information because it's pretty classified, but at the end of the day, it's just like, I did the research, I put in the work and I found a manufacturer that worked. And now, kind of fast forward into that, and it's so funny because there's so many little stories that I'm like thinking of in my head, just starting the process and everything. But I remember it was like probably the fourth or fifth bulk order that I did, like a good size, couple $1,000s, good size order. And to me, that was like a ton of money back in the day, like throwing, $3,000-4,000 into an order, just like, hopefully it comes out great, no samples, no nothing. And I remember one time I actually got scammed from a manufacturer overseas and they took I want to say it was like $4,500 It might have even been 5 grand, like the most I've ever spent on any product back then. And yeah, they scammed me, they ghosted me, and I've still never heard from them to this day. So got scammed out of all that money, and it was literally a, like a wake up call for me. Like, dude, you need to get your shit together because you can't be losing money like this, money that you don't even have. You know?
Wow. Was that like through Alibaba or something?
Yeah, it was some like black market, like Alibaba, like, and Alibaba is good, but like again,
You
it's
got to be careful.
overseas. It's super hard to communicate, and really, once you send that money, you click that send button, your money's gone.
Yeah, you got to just kind of hope.
Yeah, I think I had like a cell phone number to the manufacturer that I was using at the time, and yeah, just totally ghosted me, totally took my money, blocked me on all social, everything, and I've still never heard from them.
Wow,
So
that's wild. I've
yeah,
heard of similar things, but not just like they didn't just disappear. You know what I mean? Like usually the company's still there. They're just like really like I had that a few times when I was starting. Like
yeah,
I was trying to do samples and it was just so slow. I was like, hey man, like what's going on? They wouldn't get back to you within like 2-3 days. Finally, they sent me a sample and it was the most jacked up thing I've ever seen. And I had paid like almost $200 for one T-shirt because
yeah.
the shipping and everything. It was
Mhm.
crazy. I was like, I'm not doing this. And then of course they're like, oh no, please stay with us. Give us another shot. I'm like, no, like this is terrible. And
Yeah.
that was actually when I reached out to you and was like, hey, like I know you got a clothing brand. Like, what did you do? And you, I don't want to like jump too far ahead, but at what point did you kind of acquire the manufacturing company?
Yeah, so I figured that was gonna be the next question. So we'll take it a step back and we'll say, okay, so 2016 started the brand, we're still growing, haven't even turned to profit. 2017, we're still growing, haven't even turned to profit. All of the money that we took, literally threw it right back into the business,
Of course.
which is what I recommend for all of our clients. Like, you shouldn't be paying yourself, or you shouldn't be taking money out and going on extravagant trips and stuff. You should be putting your money back in the business
Yep.
every time you make money, until you get to the point where you can afford to do so, of course. So we'll say 2018 rolled around. We had 550 ambassadors on the team. We were crushing it. We were doing amazing. And then it got to the point where I had guys like yourself and like like I would say probably 15 or 16 other brands that would message me and want to know where we got our clothing because they love the quality of it. And it got to the point where I opened up a section on our business called wholesale. Essentially, what we did is we just used our fabrics, we used our products, we used our cuts. Everything that you see here is what we would do, but we would do it with your logo. So they would come to us. They would say, "Hey, we want to get 50 T-shirts. We love, the gray Titafit shirt that you have on the chest. Could we put our logo on it? Could we put the RN Fitness logo on it?" And of course, I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." So if I can open up this side of the business and make a little bit of extra cash doing this, I could then use that money and fund it into buying new products for my brand. So that's literally exactly what we did. I mean, all the money I made from the wholesale, I threw it back in, and basically, I would say almost 100% funded all of our orders from there on out. Like, I never really had to put a dollar back into the business. It was all coming from the manufacturing. So it was just like a role reverse of what we're doing and where the money flow is going. So, kind of jumping forward from there, it got to the point where it was close to the end of 2018, early 2019, where we were doing so much in wholesale. I was actually, I mean, not to sound like this, but making more money doing the wholesale than I was actually doing our clothing brand. And to me, the wholesale side of the business is way less energy. It's way less work, and there's so much more potential, just because of the fact how many clothing brands there are out there now.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took the step, and it was a very difficult decision, to be honest with you. And we kept doing our stuff, I would say, for a good 6 to 8 months, and we did like limited drops here and there. But it was nothing like we were doing when we were ordering, 1,000 units at a time. But then we slowly transformed into all manufacturing, and we really, I mean, we've been striving off this for the last, I would say, year and a half, close to 2 years, like I said. But
Mm-hmm.
for a good year, all of last year, we were all manufacturing, and it was easily the best decision I could have ever made.
So how did like the acquisition of that manufacturing go? I mean, did they reach out to you and like, hey, you've brought us a lot of business. Do you want to like join our manufacturing team? Or were you like, hey, I'm bringing you guys a lot of business. I want a part of this.
Yeah, the second there. So I mentioned a minute ago that I got scammed with the manufacturer we're using. They were overseas. So I ended up working with probably 3 or 4 other manufacturers, because we were kind of desperate for somebody. I tried a guy out of California, didn't work out. I was paying $16 a t-shirt, selling them for 20. To make $4, it wasn't even worth it for me. So we ended up finding a different manufacturer and started working with them, slowly growing orders throughout that year of 2017, 2018, after I got scammed. And then this manufacturer was just like spot on. They were like money. Everything we did was like perfect. And then we started using them for our wholesale. So as I started throwing them the clients and throwing them the clients, everything was ran through me. So I kind of handled all client relations. I would get the orders from the clients, send it out. It got to the point where we were doing so much volume in that I eventually was like, hey, like what can I do to make this better on you, make this better on me? So I basically invested into half of the facility, and we basically bought 4 or 5 new machines. We hired 6 or 8 different employees, a quality control guy, a print manager, a cutting manager, a sewing manager. I got a DHL logistics business account so we can ship, at better rates because we were doing so much volume. So I invested into half of the facility, and they still ran, their orders out of when they got clients, but half of the facility was all of the clients that I brought to them. So essentially, I was just handling all client relations, and probably I would say about 90 to 95% of our clients are all from the US, which is good because when you're dealing with manufacturers, like they don't have time to like sit down and get on a phone call with you. They don't have time to shoot you, 15, 20 emails back and forth to determine what you're looking for. They want to know what you want, what fabric you want, what quantity, and send your logo. And like, that's it. Like, they don't want to deal with it. So I think, doing the manufacturing, I really took the problems out of dealing with manufacturers and made it such into like a simple form when I deal with all of our clients.
And I will throw a testimonial out there on your behalf. I have tried working on Alibaba many times, and it is so frustrating to try and deal with people on different time zones, the language barrier. There's so much difficulty to that. And having someone who is on the same time zone as you, speaks the exact same language, it's so helpful, especially when you're trying to start a business and start a clothing brand, because so much can go wrong. And like you said, you can get scammed. And I mean, I had a little trust in you having an actual like area code to look at and call, not some like
Yeah.
1245, like whatever it was. I never even got a phone number actually when I was doing it.
Yeah.
It was all over email. I was like, ugh, not having a face or a name. So it's extremely helpful to have somebody on your turf that you can communicate with.
Mhm.
So when did you decide to completely kind of drop like selling your own stuff and just move into the bulk orders? Is that 2019?
Yeah, that was I would say probably September, October-ish of 2019. And like I said, I think our last limited edition drop it was probably in September of 19. And yeah, it was. We did our last like couple runs of hoodies, and still to the day I wear them. I love them. There's nothing wrong with the quality. It's just we pivoted. We adapted, we overcame, and we found a new route for the business. And essentially, it's been all uphill from there. I mean, last year alone, we worked with 104 clients for manufacturing, 104 different clients.
Wow.
So
And you
I mean,
started with what, 14, I think you said?
yeah, when we were first doing it, it was more or less just like when we were doing our brand and when we were working with other wholesale clients, it was like 14 to 16. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. So
Yeah. And back then too, they might have been just like, 50-piece orders. Like we really did like nothing over 100, like at all. And, to look back at last year, I mean, we had a couple of orders that were 6,000 units, 10,000 units, and like unbelievable, man. Yeah. It's just been, I mean, the growth of last year was far beyond what I even expected.
that's awesome. So I don't know how to like word this. What was like reaching out to people? How do you like get these clients now? Is it the same thing or is it a little different? Because I know Instagram is completely different from then. So what do you do now to find people?
Yeah, so great question. Lead generation is obviously very tough. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Lead generation is probably the hardest thing to do. But once you master it, it becomes very simple. And once you have processes in place, it becomes very effective. So I guess, kind of take it back to pre-pandemic, right? Last year, it was literally me. I was doing the same thing I was with the clothing brand, but I just changed their message. I would go on Instagram and I would look for clothing brands that were using a local screen printer, like what we talked about a minute ago, brands that didn't have custom apparel, brands that I think we could come in and help. My goal is to really come in and help people get, excuse me, get them better quality fabrics, get them better prices, get them better rate, everything, right? So I would literally send out messages. Again, I would send out 100, 200 messages a day to different brands, to different owners, to different people. Not even just clothing brands, but pretty much anybody in general that I think could use clothing. So whether that's companies, CEOs, businesses, business owners, whatever it is. And I would just send out messages, say, hey, my name is Mike Smith. I own Titafit Manufacturing. Would love to make a quick connection with you. We supply, at the time, we supply 20 or 30, businesses with custom clothing. Would love to get you guys a quote and some samples. And that would literally be my message. And that's literally my message to this day. And even to this day, I send out, I mean, I've definitely scaled it down just because we're working with quite a bit of clients now, but probably, I would say 50 maybe a week, 50, 100 messages I'll send out a week. And usually it's just when I'm scrolling aimlessly on Instagram. If I've got nothing else to do, I'll just send a message out. Same thing. Hey, this is Mike. Last year we worked with over 105 clients. Would love to get you guys some quotes and samples. It's the same thing, you know?
And so you say 200 messages. How many people even reply to those?
It just depends. I mean, having credibility is huge. Like, I mean, my page alone has 19,000 followers. So just being able to have the credibility of somebody looking at your page versus having, 200 followers, it's pretty huge. And I think that's just a representation of like how I've been building my page over the last, 4, 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just being able to send a message out in terms of people responding. I don't know, maybe less than half, maybe 20, 30%, but all you need is 20, 30%. All you need is a couple deals. If I send out 100 messages, all that costs me is a little bit of my time. I don't have to pay for that, right? So if I get even one deal out of that, I'm happy.
Yep. That's the exact point I was trying to make. I was
Yeah.
listening to, I've been making this point a lot lately because it's phenomenal. Bill Burr, Joe Rogan had a conversation, and essentially Bill Burr is a comedian. What he was saying was, I'll go to New York and I'll sell out a stadium of 20, 30,000 people. And people are like, oh, wow, you're so successful, so famous. And he's like, how many people live in New York? Millions. That is less than 1% of the population that are coming to see me. And what I took from that was you literally need less than 1% of the population to know who you are and what you're doing to be like, quote, somebody, or to, quote, make it in this world. Like, and if you just get your name out there by sending DMs all the time. I mean, I do it too for our virtual powerlifting competition that we're running right now. Couldn't tell you how many DMs I've sent about that. And honestly, I would say I get less than 20% return. So maybe I got to change up my wording or something, but it's probably more like 5 to 10% people even reply. And then from that, you probably get 2-3% people that even go on the website and click it. But it's so worth it because I've gotten so many people to actually sign up because of that. And it's just, if I could encourage anybody to just do something, start with DMs, start DMing and just understand that you don't need to be known by everybody in the world. Think of famous people like Gary Vaynerchuk. He's got like 8-10 million followers. That's less than 1% of the population.
Yep.
You don't need a lot to be somebody. And I love what you're doing with the brand. So how do you, if someone was to contact you, what would you do? How would you help them?
Yeah. Also, before I answer that question too, like actually recently within the last 2 months, I started running Google ads as well, just to start scaling the business. And that has been, that's been absolutely incredible. Like I never could have imagined. I mean, to this day, in the last month, we're probably getting anywhere from 2 to 4 inquiries a day, which
That's
is
awesome.
yeah, which is huge because I don't have to go out and I don't have to take the time now to do the messages. I still do, like I said, like probably 50 to 100 versus doing 100 or 200 a day. So I've really scaled back on that because I'm putting so much time into responding to the emails, figuring out quotes, doing mock-ups. But yeah, to your
And
question,
working a full-time job. That's
yeah,
important to throw in there because it's a grind. It's a hustle, like if you want to make it, you got to put in the work after work.
yeah, no, definitely, yeah, and I do business insurance on the side as well. So that is more than a full-time job because it's the same aspect, dude. We're prospecting, we're building relationships, we're building networks, we're discovering who we can help, right? At the end of the day, and that's what I'm doing with Titafit. Who can I help? Um, but yeah, what was your question again a second ago? What's the process when they come to me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So essentially, the process is like we said. My message is, hey, we work with all these brands. We would love to get you guys a quote. We would love to get you guys some samples. The first question I always have is, do you guys have mock-ups of what you're looking for? Do you have ideas, or do you have tech packs? If the answer is yes to any of those, I say, great. Like, let's hear it. First of all, I just want to hear what their vision is because everybody's different. Everybody's got their own goals. You may have a goal for your T-shirt where somebody else has a different goal and they want to do, hoodies and joggers and sweatpants and hats, whatever it is. So, I basically determine what they're looking for. And then the main things that, alter price, as you know, from ordering with us is quantity. Quantity is the biggest. Fabrics, colors, and then, your designs, your decorations, your logos, because embroidery is technically more costly than like a screen print is because the process is more in depth, right? It takes longer. A cotton is probably cheaper than what a polyester is going to cost. So it just depends on what item you're looking for. But essentially, the goal for me is to just, either take their mock-ups or make them mock-ups and then just get a quote based on what they're looking for. And then, we give them the quote, they approve it. And then we say, let's get some samples going. We charge them for samples. We make the samples, send it to them. The goal is to really make it so simple in 4 steps. So we take their ideas, we turn it into reality, right? So we get their samples, they either approve it, deny it, make changes to it, and then they create the bulk order.
Pretty simple. And it's for shipping, it's actually a pretty decent return rate. Like from my experience, when you put in a bulk order, it's anywhere from like 3 to 5 weeks, which to me seems pretty good when you're dealing with, you got to get all your fabrics in order. You got to get everything made, and then it's got to be shipped. And the shipping alone is like 10, 11 days. So really they're making all this in 2 to 4 weeks really, and it's pretty good. And I mean, I absolutely love using you guys. I don't think I would ever use anybody else unless I just needed like a really small, like try something out. Anytime I do something big, I always go through you guys because it's you being here and having you, and I mean the relationship we've built at this point, I like to give you business, and just the quality again is phenomenal. I mean, I always get that from people is, wow, this quality is so good. Like, how do you do this? I really don't. Like, I mean, I can tell them what I want, but for the most part, Mike's kind of already got it down to a science. Like so it's cool and it's really good. And I appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you too, man. You're honestly one of the first clients that we started working with, and to see your brand on where you've taken it from, a couple t-shirts to what you guys do now and even doing the other things that you're doing with the powerlifting meets, and I seen you did the virtual 5K and just different things like that. That's what builds a brand. It's not, and that's what I always tell people. And you and I have gotten on, phone calls and we've talked about strategy and business and building brands. And it's one of those things like anybody can go out and buy a t-shirt, slap a logo on it, like we've talked about, and sell it. Anybody can do that. But the people who stick with it, they stay persistent and they change and they adapt and they are creative are the ones who make it. And that's the biggest thing that you can give.
And that right there, the persistence, I call it consistency, is huge. Because when I first started this, and this is something I tell everybody that's like, oh, I want to start a brand, I want to start a business. I'm like, listen, you're going to start off hot. It always does, because you got all your friends, all your family, everybody kind of comes in, they buy whatever you're selling, and you feel good. You're like, wow, this is really good. Look at how much money I did this month. And then you have probably 3 or 4 months where it's just, I mean, at least for me, it was just nothing. And I was like, wow, this sucks. But I stuck with it. And now, I mean, I got people from all over the country that come and talk. I mean, it's not always about a sale to me, but I've made relationships with people all over the country now. And that's just because I stuck with it. Because there was probably 3-4 months when I first started where I didn't have a single online order. It was all just my friends. I was like, why do you even have a website right now? Did you experience something like that?
Oh, 100%. And to go back to your relationships, like building a brand like this and even building my clothing brand and still doing what I'm doing now, it's not for the money whatsoever. Like the money is an asset. It's great to have, like obviously to survive and live. And the goal is to make a ton of money, but those networks is really what's so key, dude. I mean, like I would say last week and the week before that, I've probably been on, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 calls with CEOs who are doing 10, 20, 30, $50 million in sales a year with their brands. And it's just like to be on the calls with these, with these like-minded, with these so successful people is incredible. And that's really why I do what I do. It's just to be able to tap into the knowledge, to be able to talk, to be able to network, to be able to get on these calls with these people, because you never know where life's going to take you. You never know what you're going to be doing next year. You never know what you're going to be able to do next month, so. And I think going back,
fun to connect with people too. I mean, like that's why I do this. I love like the story. I love like people's upbringings. I mean, you said you've listened to a few episodes. Every episode's pretty different. I have a lot of like this, like entrepreneurs, but I also have the people that have been sober, and it's fun to hear these stories, and like hopefully people can take something from this.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think the goal is to take one bit of value out of anything you do. So like whether you're listening to a podcast like this, whether you're watching a video, whether you're talking to somebody on the phone, if you can take one nugget, if you can take one piece of information and apply it into your everyday life, I mean, that's what I do. On my day-to-day basis, like my day job, doing insurance, you get a lot of no's, right? Nobody wants to talk about their insurance. Even doing the Titafit, like you get a lot of no's. Like, no, we already have a manufacturer. No, we don't want to use you guys. No, we don't want to do this. Like, if you can take one piece of information from that no and somehow turn that into a yes, or somehow turn that into a maybe, possibly in the future, dude, that's where the money is. That's all that matters. Because like, I mean, I think our first year in Titafit, like full year, like, from we'll just say like November to November, we probably did, I don't know, maybe $6,000 in sales, $10,000 in sales. Like honestly, it was probably less than that. Yeah, it was probably $6,000 or $7,000 in sales. Like not a ton. And
And
that was
that's
a whole year.
sales, not including what you paid for the clothing. That's just what
Yeah.
you like the revenue.
Yeah.
The net was probably negative.
Yeah, it was negative. Yeah. And like I said, and until we started, really building the profit and then putting the profit back into the business. But, it's just being persistent, being consistent, like you said. It's just, and this is the thing that a lot of the brands that I work with right now, a lot of people that come to me are startup clothing brands where they want to get 50 or 100 t-shirts, which is great. Everybody's got to start somewhere. I was there, you were there. All these brands that I've already worked with have been there. But they think that if they don't sell all 50 shirts right away, they think that they're just a failure. They just stop. They're done. Legit, I've probably worked with, I would say 10, maybe 15 brands that have ordered 50 shirts. They've maybe sold 10 of them and they just never ordered again and they've quit their brand. It's like, to me, I just don't understand because like when we were doing titanium, like, I mean, we would have, product left on the shelf from 3 or 4 launches ago that didn't sell. But to me, that was never a problem because those were already either paid for, those were already reimbursed into the company. Those are already products that I know that are discontinued or discounted that are going to sell at a future date. Mm-hmm. Because like you've got your New Year's Day sale, you've got your Black Fridays, your Cyber Mondays, you've got your blowout sales, your flash sales. That's the time that the products are going to sell. And you don't need to sell everything as soon as you get them in. Like, and I think that's a misconception that a lot of, clothing brand owners and, even other product owners have. As soon as you buy your product, you think you should sell it in a week. Like, that doesn't happen, dude. You need to sell your money so you can hopefully recoup your money that you put into it. You want to try to get your cost of goods out of it and you want to try to get a profit, but you need to continually reinvest into yourself and into your brand. And that's what you and I have talked about a few times. Like, when you get a product in, like, you should already be thinking about your next 2 launches. Yep. Then you get that product in, you should already be thinking about what you're going to launch in September and then what you're going to launch in January and then what you're going to do for a summer sale. Like, that's just the way my mind always works. And I watched a video the other day on Elon Musk as well. And he has a similar philosophy where he's always thinking about his next week before this week has even started. Whether it's with his SpaceX, whether it's with Tesla, he jumps back and forth between the two a lot. He's always thinking about what he can do next before he's even done the task at hand.
And to your point of not selling out, I still have in my closet right over there some of the very first pair of shorts and the original T-shirts that I bought. And I mean, yeah, there's very few of them left now, but it was just one of those things where I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to stop. Like, obviously I'm not going to, like, I knew buying that I wasn't going to sell all 60. I think I did 60 and 60 for my first order. And which was something else I also wouldn't have done too. If I could tell somebody that, I would have started with the minimum just because you want to have more variety instead of more of the same product. But I still have those. And I mean, sometimes they still go off the shelf. It's rare now because there's like only smalls left. But yeah. It's just, it's sad to see people give up like that. And I think most of the time, the people that do give up are the ones that don't have the passion for it. They joined it because they thought it was a great way for them to get rich quick. And clothing, at least in my opinion, a clothing brand like this is not the way to get rich quick. The profits and all that just aren't quite there. There's definitely way better ways to do it. I mean, it can happen, right? But in my opinion,
take your money to the casino, see what you can do there.
Yeah, there's just so many other things that you can do that have proven to be more return. But it's so much fun, and I mean, like we said, the connections are great. What is something you'd tell somebody that's starting out? Anything.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I always tell people is to start, right? Because there's a lot of people that come to me and they're like, hey, I want to do this brand. I want to do this. And, I wouldn't really consider myself an influencer, but like I do get a decent amount of people that they've seen the success and they've seen my journey. So they ask me and I'm very open and like, I'm super transparent. Anytime anybody has me a question, I answer it right away. Like I'm very, very adamant on helping young people get into business. Even older people, if they're older than me, I don't care. Like age doesn't matter. Like just start. And the biggest thing is I think sometimes people, there's obviously your brainstorming phase, then your planning phase, and then your starting phase. I think sometimes people get trapped in that planning phase where they're planning, they want everything to be so perfect, like perfect when they launch, perfect products, perfect sizes, that they forget to start. They forget to see, like, is this going to work? They forget to prove their concept. And I think that's the biggest tip I can do. It doesn't matter. Your product's coming out. Like my first t-shirts were 100% cotton. They shrunk like a mother. And dude, they were terrible, dude. They're absolutely terrible. And people still bought them. I literally I proved my concept. We sold 100 t-shirts. I'm like, great, we can do this. Let's order more. Like, but if I was like, yeah, let's get a sample. Oh, this doesn't, I'm not liking the fabric on this. Let's get something else. Like, I don't like the way that is. Let's try something. Like, quit planning and start executing. That's the way I look at it.
Dude, I mean, that's RN Fitness right there. Just start right now. That is at 100%. Same thing I say to people is like, you can't get caught up in this planning phase because you don't know what to ask yet. Like you have to start doing it to even know the right questions to ask. And I think that's a great tip. That's extremely important. If you were to talk to yourself 5 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I would probably have just invested more into the branding aspect. So I would have invested more into Instagram back then. I would have invested more into people. I would have tried to grow the team at a quicker rate. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just do more. Like if I would have known what I know now on the manufacturing side, I probably would have started doing manufacturing a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm not one of the types of guys to kind of look back and say, hey, I regret, or I would have done this, I would have done that. But
Mhm.
if I had the opportunity to tell myself something, it would have just been do more, literally do more. And I think back then, I did work on it a ton, and I mean, 24/7, 10 hours a day, like 14 hours a day, whatever it was. But just get more people involved, make more connections, do more, start the manufacturing maybe slightly earlier. Um,
Give it all you got.
Give it all you got, man. Yeah, just put more into it. If you're tapped out at 10 hours, do 12. If you're tapped out at 12, do 14. Like
Absolutely. Before we go, is there anything else you want to say to people? Definitely give out your Instagram or your email, however people can contact you if they want to start their brand.
Yeah. If anybody wants to start a clothing brand, whether it's you already have a clothing brand, whether you want to start a clothing brand, I mean, I'm super open to sharing my story, kind of like what we did here. I'm happy to hop on a call with anybody and anybody. But yeah, you can check my Instagram page out. It's at Mike Smith CEO. If you don't know how to spell it, you probably shouldn't contact me because it's an easy spelling. And then our Instagram, you can find it off of my page. It's probably the easiest, honestly, but it's just Titafit Co. It's TITAFITCO. That's all of our handles on all of our socials. Then the website's super simple. It's just Titafit.com. So it doesn't really get more simple than that. And that's another thing. Try to keep everything as uniform as possible whenever you're creating it. That way, if it was Titafit Manufacturing Supplyco.com, like you might not find it. If it's everything on each of your platforms the same, I mean, it's so much easier. So yeah,
That's a great
if
point.
anybody's interested, let me know, and definitely want to get you quotes, get you more information, hop on a call. And yeah, you've got a great testimonial right here. And Nick, I can't thank you enough for all of your support. If it wasn't for you and a couple of the other guys I'm working with, I wouldn't be sitting here right now doing what I'm doing. So greatly appreciate what you're doing. The brand's taking off. And yeah, like we talked about, stay persistent with it, brother.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you for all you've done. And everybody, thanks for listening. Follow Mike, follow me, Nick Kroll, Nick Kroll Show on Instagram and at Nick_Kroll. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you on the next one.